I came home later than usual that night, my shoulders aching, from a double shift at the hospital in Tacoma. The drive back to Seattle had been a slog through the usual fog and traffic, but I was looking forward to seeing Emma. Maybe we'd share a glass of wine, talk about her day in the media world, or just sit in silence on the couch like we used to. At 38, I'd learned to appreciate those quiet moments in our 7-year marriage. The house, a cozy 2-story in a quiet suburb, welcomed me with its warm porch light. The white picket fence and the little wooden sign reading Dalka Family always made me smile, a reminder of the life we'd built together. I slipped my key into the lock quietly, not wanting to startle her if she was on a call. My tool bag thudded softly against the floor as I set it down in the entryway. The scent of red wine and something floral, her favorite candle, wafted from the kitchen. Then I heard her voice, light and animated the way it got when she was gossiping with friends. But this wasn't just chit-chat. I paused, one hand on the doorframe, listening through the slightly ajar kitchen door. Honestly, Jason, he's just a shadow in this house. Like he doesn't even exist half the time. If I could make him disappear forever, I would. Emma's laugh cut through the air, sharp and unfiltered. I froze. Jason, the photographer she'd worked with on that branding shoot last year, they'd kept in touch, she'd said, for professional reasons, but this wasn't professional. I leaned closer, my heart pounding in my ears. She was on FaceTime, her back to me, perched on a stool at the island counter. The screen glowed on her face, and she sipped her wine casually as if discussing the weather. You know what I mean. Every morning I wake up next to Owen, and it feels like I'm sleeping beside an empty space. He's so predictable, boring. I need someone who lights me up, not drags me down. I wish he'd just vanish from my life for good. Her words hit me like a physical blow, each one sinking deeper into my chest. A shadow. That's what I was to her. The man who drove 45 minutes each way to fix machines that saved lives, who paid the mortgage on this house, who fixed every leaky faucet and broken appliance without complaint. I'd never been the flashy type, no Instagram posts, no networking events, but I'd always been there, solid, reliable. And now she wanted me gone. I didn't burst in, didn't shout or demand an explanation. My throat tightened, but no tears came. Instead, a cold clarity washed over me. If she saw me as a shadow, then maybe it was time to fade away. Not in anger, not with a scene, but completely, irrevocably. I backed away silently, picking up my tool bag as if I'd never been there. Outside, the Seattle mist clung to my jacket like regret. I got into my SUV, the engine humming to life, and drove aimlessly for a while, the city lights blurring through the windshield. My mind raced. 7 years. We'd met at a coffee shop downtown, her with her vibrant energy and me with my quiet steadiness. Picnics in the rain, hikes in the Cascades, building this home together. But lately her world had expanded, workshops, retreats, a growing following on social media. And I'd shrunk in her eyes, becoming invisible. By the time I pulled over in an empty parking lot near the Sound, I'd made up my mind. No confrontation, no begging for change. If she wanted me to disappear, I'd grant her wish, but on my terms. I'd vanish, taking with me the stability she'd taken for granted, the house in my name, the accounts I'd managed, the life I'd quietly sustained. I pulled out my phone and started a note, plan to disappear. First, freeze the joint accounts. Second, contact the lawyer a colleague had recommended for discreet divorces. Third, sell the house quickly, no negotiations. Fourth, move to the cabin in Oregon that my old friend had offered. It was remote, simple, perfect for starting over. I didn't feel rage, just resolve. Emma had called me a shadow. Fine, shadows don't fight back. They just slip away, leaving the light to fend for itself. I drove back home, eventually slipping in while she was asleep. Tomorrow, the plan would begin. For now, I lay beside her one last time, staring at the ceiling, already gone in my mind. As I lay there in the dark, listening to Emma's steady breathing beside me, my mind wandered back to how we'd ended up here. 7 years ago, everything had felt so right, so full of promise. We'd met at a small coffee shop in downtown Seattle, the kind with exposed brick walls and the constant hum of espresso machines. It was raining, as it always does here, and she was sitting by the window, scrolling through her phone with that effortless grace that drew me in. I was just a guy grabbing a quick black coffee before my shift at the hospital, but when our eyes met, Something clicked. We talked for hours that day about her dreams in media, my love for tinkering with old radios the way the city lights reflected off the sound at night. It was simple real. No pretenses. We dated for 2 years before I proposed. Nothing flashy, just a hike in the Cascades where I got down on one knee at the top of a trail with the mist rolling in and wildflowers blooming around us. She said yes, with tears in her eyes, and we laughed all the way back down the mountain. Our wedding was small, intimate, at a little venue overlooking Lake Washington. Friends and family toasted to our future, and for a while, it was everything I'd hoped for. We moved into an apartment in the suburbs, saving every penny for a down payment on a house. I worked extra shifts, fixing medical equipment, MRIs, ventilators, anything that kept the hospital running while she built her career in brand consulting. Back then, she appreciated my steadiness. "You're my rock, Owen," she'd say, curling up against me on the couch after a long day. "We bought the house 5 years ago, that 2-story charmer with the white picket fence and the garden I tended on weekends. It was in my name. I handled the paperwork, the mortgage applications, because my credit was stronger from years of steady work. I paid the installments religiously month after month while Emma focused on her growing business. She started as a freelancer helping small companies with their social media presence, but she had a knack for it. Her Instagram blew up flat-lay photos of coffee cups and notebooks, captions about self-love and empowerment. Before long, she had 46,000 followers, sponsorships trickling in invitations to workshops and retreats. I was proud of her. I'd come home from a grueling day covered in grease from some machine repair, and she'd show me her latest post beaming. We'd celebrate with takeout pizza and bad movies. But cracks started appearing about 2 years ago. It was subtle at first. She'd come back from a work trip, a branding retreat in Malibu, and seemed distant, like part of her had stayed behind. "These events are life-changing, Owen," she'd say, unpacking crystals and journals from her bag. "They're about finding your light, you know." I'd nod. Try to understand, even though my world was more about wrenches and circuits than spiritual awakenings. I suggested we do something together, a weekend getaway to the old cabin in Spokane where we'd gone on one of our first trips. Hiking trails, campfires, no cell service. "That sounds nice," she'd replied, but her tone was flat. "But honestly, Owen, I'm not that girl anymore. I need space to breathe, to grow, not picnics and pine trees." I felt it then, the shift. She started traveling more, networking events in New York, wellness retreats in California. I'd hold down the fort at home, mowing the lawn, paying the bills, fixing the leaky roof without complaint. Our joint account covered the basics, but I kept my savings separate, a habit from before we married. She never noticed. Her posts became more polished, more about empowering women and chasing dreams, buy-ins, but I was never in them. Not a mention, not a tag. I was the invisible man behind the scenes, the one who made sure the Wi-Fi worked for her live sessions, who handled the insurance renewals, who kept the house running like clockwork. One night about a month ago, I tried to bridge the gap. She'd just returned from another trip, glowing from whatever transformation she'd experienced. I cooked her favorite pasta, lit candles in the dining room. "Let's talk," I said, pouring wine. "I miss us," she sighed, scrolling through her phone. "Owen, you're sweet, but this..." She gestured vaguely around the room. "It's not enough anymore. I need more light in my life, more energy." Her words stung, but I swallowed them. That was the night I first suspected Jason. I'd seen his name pop up on her iPad notifications, innocent at first, work-related, but the retreats coincided with his travel posts. I didn't confront her. What was the point? If she wanted out, she'd say it. Lying there now, after overhearing her call me a shadow, the pieces fell into place. She didn't just want space, she wanted me erased from the perfect image she was curating online, from the life she envisioned with someone like Jason, flashy, adventurous, lit up. I wasn't angry, not in the explosive way. It was a deeper hurt mixed with resignation. I'd given everything, my time, my stability, my heart, and it wasn't enough. She saw me as boring, predictable, a relic from her past. As dawn crept in through the curtains, I slipped out of bed quietly. Emma stirred, but didn't wake. In the home office, I booted up my laptop, the screen's glow casting shadows on the walls. First, I logged into our joint accounts, froze them with a few clicks, ensuring she couldn't access more than her personal funds. Next, I canceled the supplementary credit card in her name, the one I'd added for emergencies. Then I emailed the divorce lawyer I'd researched weeks ago, attaching scans of our marriage certificate and financial docs. Discreet proceedings, I wrote. No alimony sought, just dissolution and asset separation. By mid-morning, while she was still asleep, I'd contacted a real estate agent. A quiet sale, no open houses, cash buyers preferred. The house was in my name. She'd never questioned it. Finally, I texted my old friend in Oregon. Cabin still available. Need it for a fresh start. His reply came quick. Yours whenever. Doors open. I closed the laptop feeling a strange calm. The plan was in motion. No drama, no accusations, just me fading away like the shadow she called me. But when I vanished, I'd take the foundation she'd built her life on. The home, the security, the illusion of stability. She wanted light, fine. Let her find it without the structure I'd provided all these years. I stepped outside into the misty Seattle morning, coffee in hand, watching the neighborhood wake up. For the first time in months, I felt visible to myself. The disappearance had begun. 3 days after I arrived at the cabin in Oregon, the pieces started falling into place. I powered off my old phone, replacing it with a cheap burner that only my lawyer and Mark knew about. No social media, no emails from our shared life, just silence. The forest around me was alive with the rustle of leaves and distant bird calls, a stark contrast to the buzz of Seattle. I'd spent the time settling in, stacking firewood, fixing a loose shutter on the cabin, even tuning an old radio I'd brought along. It crackled to life, with a local station playing folk tunes filling the quiet space. But my mind was on Emma. She was due back from her Malibu retreat today, and I knew the unraveling would begin. My lawyer emailed that morning through a secure app I'd set up on my laptop. The divorce petition had been filed electronically, and service would happen via certified mail to the house's address. He'd also confirmed the house listing 2 offers already, both cash one at asking price. Closing in 5 days if you approve, the message read. I did. The equity would hit my new Portland account soon after. Utilities transferred to the buyer's name post-sale. Emma's name wasn't on any of it. She'd always left the boring stuff to me. I pictured her arrival. Her flight from LAX would land around noon Pacific time. She'd call an Uber from SeaTac, scrolling through her phone, maybe posting a glowing recap of the retreat, recharged and ready for new beginnings, dowered self-love. The driver would drop her at the curb, and she'd wheel her suitcase up the walkway, expecting the familiar creak of the front door. But the key wouldn't turn. She'd jiggle it, frown, try again. Maybe she'd think it was jammed, call a locksmith. No, she'd notice the SUV gone from the driveway first. Panic would set in. From there, she'd probably call me. But my number was dead to her now. Voicemail full, then disconnected. She'd text, but no delivery. Then Jason, her retreat companion, the one who'd listened to her complaints about me. Babe, something's wrong, she'd say, her voice cracking for the first time. But Jason, I doubted he'd rush to help. Guys like him thrived on the thrill, not the fallout. By evening, she'd head to her mother's place, a cramped condo in Bellevue, the kind with thin walls and nosy neighbors. That's where I'd arranged for the boxes to be delivered, 4 cardboard cartons neatly taped and labeled Emma Dalka, personal items. I'd packed them myself before leaving her clothes folded precisely, her laptop wiped, of any shared files, cosmetics, and bubble-wrap books from her nightstand. Nothing of mine, nothing joint. Tucked inside the top box was the envelope, manila unmarked. Inside, the divorce papers stamped and official, a breakdown of assets showing she got only what was solely hers, a small savings account, her car title, and my handwritten letter short and, to the point, you called me a shadow. Now the shadow's gone, and it's taken the light you surrounded yourself with. I didn't need to be there to know her reaction. She'd rip open the boxes on her mother's porch, confusion, turning to fury, then despair. Mom, what is this? She'd ask, voice rising. Her mother, always more sympathetic to me than Emma knew, might shrug. A delivery guy dropped them off yesterday, said it was from Owen. Emma would scan the papers, her hands shaking. Divorce house, sold accounts. Frozen, she'd call her bank only to hear joint access revoked by primary holder. Credit card declined mid-call, perhaps, while trying to book a hotel. The retreat high would crash hard. Jason's texts would go unanswered, or worse, he'd ghost, citing drama he didn't sign up for. Her Instagram posts about empowerment would ring hollow, now likes trickling to a stop as followers sensed the shift. Where's the hubby? Someone might comment, but she'd delete it. Work her consulting gigs relied on that polished image, the home office with natural light, the balanced life aesthetic. Without the house, without stability, clients would hesitate. Meanwhile, in the cabin, I monitored from afar. Not obsessively, just updates from the lawyer and agent. The house closed 2 days later, all cash buyer, a young family relocating from California. Proceeds wired $450, $1,000 after fees and mortgage. Enough for me to breathe easy. I canceled my old insurance policy, switched my work address to a P.O. box in Portland. The hospital I'd given notice remotely, citing personal relocation. They understood good techs like me were in demand. I'd lined up freelance gigs consulting on medical equipment maintenance, all remote. Social ties severed cleanly. Mutual friends got a brief email. Emma and I have parted ways amicably. Please respect our privacy. Most wouldn't pry. Our circles had diverged anyway. Her world was influencers and retreats. Mine was wrenches and wires. As the week ended, I sat by the fire, the cabin warmed by crackling logs. The radio played softly a blues tune about lost love. I felt no triumph, just peace. I'd vanished as she'd wished, without a word, without a fight. But in my absence, her world would crumble brick by invisible brick. The shadow was gone, and with it the unseen support that had held everything together. Now she'd learned what true emptiness felt like. And me, I was finally stepping into my own light here in the woods where no one expected anything but what I chose to give. 6 months had passed since I'd vanished into the Oregon woods, and the cabin had become more than a hideaway. It was home. The days blurred into a rhythm of simplicity mornings, fixing equipment for remote freelance gigs afternoons, hiking trails lined with towering pines, evenings by the fire with a book, or my restored radios crackling with distant stations. The money from the house sale had cleared my debts and funded a fresh start, no extravagance, just stability. I'd even picked up volunteer work at a local clinic tuning their outdated machines for free. It felt good to be useful without strings attached. News of Emma trickled in indirectly. My lawyer forwarded updates on the divorce finalized without contest, her signature shaky on the returned papers. She tried to fight the asset split, at first claiming undue hardship, but the prenup and my separate finances held firm. No alimony, no house proceeds, nothing. Mutual acquaintances, the few who reached out via Mark, painted a picture she'd crashed at her mother's condo in Bellevue, the cramped space a far cry from our suburban haven. Her Instagram, once a beacon of curated perfection, had gone quiet. Posts about empowerment and new chapters garnered fewer likes, comments turning skeptical. Where's the glow up now? Sponsors pulled back, clients hesitated. The brand she'd built on illusions of bliss couldn't withstand the reality of loss. Jason vanished, faster than I had. From what I heard, he'd ghosted after learning about the frozen accounts and sold house too much drama for his free-spirited lifestyle. Emma had tried reaching out to him during those first frantic weeks, but his number went dead. Friends from her retreats offered platitudes at first. You're strong, girl, but their support faded as her story spread. No one wanted the mess of a fallen influencer tainting their feeds. One rainy afternoon, as I sipped coffee on the cabin porch, my burner phone buzzed an unknown number. I almost ignored it, but curiosity won. Owen? Her voice, thin and hesitant, cut through the static. Emma. How she'd found the number I didn't know, maybe through a mutual contact or sheer desperation. Please don't hang up. I need to talk. I leaned back against the rough wood railing, the forest dripping around me. What is there to say? My tone was even no anger, just detachment. She broke, then words tumbling out like a dam giving way. I was wrong. So wrong. I took you for granted, Owen. The house, the life we had, it was all because of you. I see that now. Jason, he left. Everyone left. I'm staying with Mom, scraping by on freelance gigs that barely pay. I miss us. Can we meet? Just once. I want to apologize in person. The wind rustled the pines, carrying the scent of wet earth. I thought of her words that night. I wish he'd disappear forever, and how they'd echoed in my mind during those first lonely weeks here. But pity no. She'd chosen her path. Emma, I said finally, you got what you wanted. I disappeared. The shadow's gone. Please, she whispered, voice cracking, give me a chance to make it right. I stood gazing at the mist-shrouded trees. Some things can't be fixed. You called me invisible. Now to you I am. I ended the call, blocked the number, and stepped inside. No second thoughts. She'd face the consequences alone, the empty apartment, the fading online presence, the quiet realization that light without foundation is just fleeting sparks. As for me, I'd found my own. The cabin, the work, the solitude, it was an escape. It was emergence. Emma had taught me that. In her wish for my vanishing, she'd freed us both. But while she wandered in the dark she'd created, I walked in the clear, crisp air of a life reclaimed.